What's up, guys? Welcome in to another live episode of Muscle Matters. I'm your host, Blake Bernard, met with the lovely Steve Southers. And today, guys...
I'm going to shave my legs next week, I think, because I'm looking at summertime, and I'm upset because I didn't get the invitation to the gun show. Apparently, it was gun show week here and I did not.
My previous guest was from Oklahoma. I had to wear the coveralls and the Tupac cutoff.
I'm just upset I didn't get an invitation to the gun show. I mean, it's not often that I get it's California. You can't have guns out in California.
Dark colors are slimming. Your arms right now do not look near as big as mine.
You want to hear a funny story?
I'm just saying, it still looks like I'm wearing a white T-shirt on underneath this.
So when I was a youngster, you know how these youngsters like to pose in the mirror?
Yes.
And you'll hear Tom and I talking about how the old timers used to keep us in check. So I'm doing a set of triceps. I don't think anybody's seen me. I got my little 18s and I flexed them in the mirror, and I'm like, yeah. The old timer comes, puts his arms around me, goes, man, that looks pretty good. And I was like, and he goes, imagine what it's going to look like when you get muscle. And I was like, oh.
Dude, 18s then, what are they now?
I have no idea. I stopped measuring. The biggest I got them was 23.
Okay.
So I have no idea now because I don't want to cry.
Super Soaker HDs.
I'll just go sit in the corner and cry now.
Okay, what are your calves?
The biggest my calves were 21 3/4.
Okay.
So I have no idea now.
Oh, God,
reading numbers now is just going to make me cry.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
Well, before we get any further, we got to shout out our show's sponsor, Covenant Coffee. They're making big moves in the city of Bakersfield and in the state of California at large. These guys provide awesome job opportunities and careers for kids and foster youth that wouldn't maybe otherwise have such opportunities in their lives. Not everyone's blessed with amazing parents and great homes. These guys provide the next best thing to young adults looking to start new lives. So guys, go get, I was going to say give an ear, give a tongue to Covenant Coffee.
Hey.
Is that appropriate?
It's okay.
Okay. Anyways, today
Get some coffee.
Get some coffee, guys. America lives on it.
Keep it simple.
So today we wanted to talk about, this is actually very relevant, all right? So earlier in the week, one of my beloved 4-year high school athletes, like they've been with me, they're OGs, man. They've been with me since day one of Grindhouse. Mom calls me up and goes, hey, my son needs to be at this weight for football. Now, mind you, this kid is already the fastest offensive tackle in town, okay? He's a little bit undersized, but you and I both know an offensive tackle does not need to be 300 pounds in high school to be good. I think like 250 is a really good sweet spot. He's currently at 235. Mom's like, well, Dad's getting impatient, and he wants my son to hop on the juice. Well, I have my own opinions on this. Steve, you're the one, you've lived a life of performance enhancement. And well, like, look at you, man. You putting on mass is something you're gifted with. So what would you say to that?
Well, the problem with performance enhancers, okay, cool. I'm going to put my kid on gear in high school. I can tell you a plethora, because I came up in the 80s. I can tell you a plethora of athletes that were roided out because, hey, you just drive down to Mexico and get it. That when they went to the next level, where they actually started testing. Now all of a sudden, this athlete that this coach think he's getting, it's not there.
Yes.
One of the things that anabolics do, anabolics help increase adrenaline. It helps increase aggressiveness. It helps give you a natural edge. It does a lot of things to where you can withstand a little more punishment. And now you take all that stuff away. We're going to come back to how bad it is for a youngster to actually take this stuff. So I'm just talking about the advantages you do get with anabolics. And then when you take that advantage away and now you're left flat-footed. Mm-hmm. Now you're going against that kid who's from Western Kentucky, Iowa, mid-state, who's a 6'5", 295-pound corn-fed kid who picked up cows for a living. Mm-hmm. And you've lost that edge that you got from a pharmaceutical product.
Right.
And now you're trying to figure out how you're getting that. Have you ever watched the program?
Yeah.
Great movie. Literally, that's it right there.
Mm-hmm.
That dude was a beast. He got off the needle and got trucked.
100%.
Literally what happens, because now you've been chemically dependent. You're used to operating at you youngsters probably haven't watched the program, but everybody knows pretty much familiar with Overeem. Overeem was a championship kickboxer. He was doing all this stuff. And the moment he got off the gear, he was just a gatekeeper in the UFC.
Yes.
Because it's just all the pride fighters, they were just all that stuff. And now you're having to go back and rely on natural ability. And that drive is not where it was. So it's the downside psychologically taking gear, and then you're playing Russian roulette with a high school kid. They've already got hormonal problems. They're already self-doubt, suicide, not good enough, problems keeping it in the pants. You've got all these issues going on with a teenage boy, and then you're gonna load him up with testosterone. There's a 95% chance you're not going to take the proper anti-estrogen hormone balancing products to make sure that your teenager, who's already sprouting pimples a mile a minute, who's already having issues and yelling and screaming and flipping out because he's got a body full of hormones, and you're going to inject that into him. And it's just, from a psychological aspect, it's just, you're asking for it. Like I can remember all my friends that were roided out in high school. All they did was get in fistfights. You can't do that anymore. Back in the 80s, it was no big deal. Went to the fields, went and got in fights. It was no big deal. Like, trying to fight Sid Vicious or Psycho Sid on Chester. It just was no big deal. You could get in fights. You can't do that anymore. Right. So you take this raging hormone. I mean, I couldn't imagine this hormone challenged kid who's already when he talks and going, you know what? You need to have as much testosterone as a bull, son. Yeah.
It seems so short-sighted, right? Because dad obviously wants him to be good in the here and now.
Yes.
And you and I are looking at this kid like, okay, he's already a beast. But I agree with you. I can't count how many guys I knew in high school that were everything. I mean, just the talk of the town, kind of in the newspaper every freaking Saturday morning kind of a deal. They got to Fresno State, they got to the University of Washington, they got to USC. You never heard from them again because all of a sudden they couldn't take it anymore. And I'm sorry, I don't think there's an 18-year-old kid out there that can. I'm 31. If you loaded me up on good juice, I would depend on it too. Like who's spiritually strong enough to withstand the psychological benefits and the allure of that?
It makes you feel great.
It makes you feel
great. As an adult, I remember having emotional problems. Now you're talking about a child
whose frontal lobe is not developed yet. There's a 17-year-old boy.
Yes. And he's just psychologically, it's just dumb. Now, physically, it's even dumber. Because you have a child who's already at, and when I say dumber, I'm being as nice as I can when I say it.
You can. Come on, man.
You've got a child whose testosterone is already a couple thousand. That's just, at that age, you're at the peak of testosterone. That's men, we get 23, 24, 25, and it just starts leaving. But at that age, you are the peak of testosterone. That's why they put you in the military at 17, 18, 19, because you can operate on 2 hours of sleep. You can run all day. You can do all these things because your testosterone is, So now I introduced this synthetic testosterone. The first thing synthetic testosterone does is turn off your natural. It's the very first thing you do. And everybody will tell you there's nothing like your first cycle. You gain the absolute most because then you're buddying off your testosterone. Once you buddy off your testosterone and your body has become dependent on synthetics, your body doesn't want to make it anymore. So now when your kid gets to Fresno State, he might even make it to Alabama. He gets to one of these top programs and he's operating at 8,000, 9,000 grams of testosterone. He can't be on the needle anymore. And now his natural testosterone, which should be between 15 and 3,000 for a young man, is at 200. He's trying to figure out why he's depressed. He wants to go home. The chances that he's going to grow a pair of man boobs because he's not going to break his cycle right. I mean, all these things are going to happen to where physically, now that kid is no longer Superman. It's like when coming off the gear, it's kind of like Superman and kryptonite. It's just the honest thing. All of a sudden, you go to pick something up, and you're like, "Oh crap! When did I get heavy? What happened?" Now you take a child who, like you said, once again, not mentally developed, and he's gone from being Superman throwing people around, and all of a sudden he has somebody put hands on him, and they move him out the way. It's rough.
It's rough.
Yeah. So you're literally knocking down their natural production of testosterone, and once you knock down your natural production of testosterone, it's not coming back.
Right.
That's why there's TRT clinics. I see young men as young as 22, 23 years old that are on TRT for the rest of their life because their body's no longer producing testosterone. Not to mention, I'm gonna go down the rabbit hole of conspiracy theories. Half the food is full of estrogen, half the water is full of estrogen. The rain is full of estrogen. They're basically, everything they're doing is trying to castrate a man. So we're castrating our youth already. So now you're going to give them a product that's going to literally castrate them again when they come off of it. So now this young man for the rest of his life is operating at 200-300 grams of testosterone. So now he's forced to be on the needle for the rest of his life versus becoming a late age man and going, okay, I'm regressing and I'm going to go get medical TRT. It's just,
again, short-sighted. Football's everything though when you're 17 years old, right? Ball is life.
When I used to be partnered up in another business, and our other business was across the street from a high school, and I won't say which high school. And these young men used to walk over, and they would tell me they were on D-ball, and I'd be like, "Why?" "Oh, I'm trying to get better." And I'm like, "Why?" I'm like, "At your age, you can take a natural testosterone booster, and it's going to be just like D-ball, because it's going to spike your testosterone for the next 4 hours, and you get the same thing you're getting without turning off your body." Natural testosterone boosters work great for people with 2,000-3,000 grams of testosterone. When you have high testosterone, those products work great. Ashwagandha, all that stuff works great when you have natural high production of testosterone. So if you're worried about your child making more testosterone, you give them a natural one that naturally boosts his so it doesn't mess up his curve. Yeah. I can go down that rabbit hole for a while.
It's just such a hard one because again, so we could talk all day about natural testosterone boosters, which get poo-pooed on all day.
Yes.
Because it's not probably hardcore edgy enough for,
because it doesn't do with the needle. It's like, yeah, but when you're young and you're producing that much, every one of those young men came back over and went, "Hey man, thank you.
Yeah.
I'm just as strong and I don't have these problems."
Oh, that's powerful, man.
Yeah.
Okay. But how much even better would it be if we just got them to take care of all the holes in their lives? You know what I mean? Like all the leakages, right? So if you got a kid who's really working hard, they care, but maybe they're not getting those 8 hours of sleep a night. Maybe they're not eating enough to grow. I mean, there are just so many things that I would like to fix before turning to that. Even if, somebody really wanted to do it, there might be an argument to be made if they lived a perfect life, going into that. But even then,
strength coach.
What's that?
You're a strength coach. That's what you do. You teach athletes how to be athletic. When's the last time you told your athlete to bench press for you?
For me?
Yes. Hey, I need to go to bench press. We're going to bench press today.
What do you mean?
We're going to lay down on the bench and bench.
Without a warm up?
Just the bench press. We're benching today.
I want
to see what your max bench press is today. When was the last time you PR'd one of your athletes in a bench press? Like, let's lay down and bench press.
Today.
Yeah. You did it today? How often?
I did it?
No, for your kids. For your athletes. How often do you do that?
On literally a weekly basis with a different variation.
Okay. How important is it?
Oh, not at all.
Strength is not the end all be all in sports.
Right. I was like, where are you going with this?
And that's, you see, I mean, how many times you see this specimen? Like, you're like, oh my God, that's a specimen. Oh, he's asleep.
Yeah.
What happened? Because it's just not there. He's a specimen. He's this monster. He's this beast. He's this workout. He's a great workout. Hey, bro, bodybuilding's over there.
Isn't it crazy though? Like, so the NFL draft just happened, right? And yes, like relative athletic scores, they can make or break if a guy gets taken in the first or third round, stuff like that. But man, I mean, you don't hear these scouts talking about the bench press numbers all that much unless maybe if you're an offensive lineman. But there's a reason they don't test your squat and deadlift. All they want to see is you move and a lot of lateral movements and a bunch of stuff around
How fast do you run straight? How fast do you run sideways?
100%.
I need to know what those, and what is your shuttle time, forward and backwards?
100%.
I need to see if you're athletic.
Now, football is one of those interesting sports where momentum impacts actually matter, right? You need to be able to run fast, and 50 pounds heavier running the same speed is going to hurt a lot more, right? So it is worth noting that mass equals gas in a lot of these sports. But again, you don't need steroids to do it. So my response to this mom was like, hey, could we try 6 months, like literally up until season time? Let's spend the next 6 months like with a dialed in accountability-based nutrition program where we're checking in on a weekly basis and we're monitoring muscle mass and all that stuff. He's put on 11 pounds in 3 months. And again, he's still the guy that's getting, coaches like, hey, so-and-so, come here. I got a coach I want you to talk to, kind of a deal. He's a fast soft lineman because he did it the right way.
Yes, and you're correct because, like you said, you stick your kid on a needle, he's still eating Jack in the Box. Food, rest.
Stepping over dollar bills to pick up pennies.
Yes, it's food and rest. That's the end all be all. It's food. Like I see people that take an ungodly amount of steroids and they're a middleweight and a 6 foot body. We're like, hey, bro, you should be a giant. But because they don't eat food, I had egg whites for breakfast with some avocados and a toast. And then I had a shake later. Oh, you're a bikini competitor.
Yeah. And they'd say, but Ocho Cinco did it.
Yeah.
He double at McDonald's or whatever.
You're not him.
I know. DK Metcalf did it, eating his Skittles all day or whatever. They'll always cite the freakiest dude. And I'm like, you're not that guy, man.
Well, the comeback to that is you look at LeBron James. No matter where you put him on your Mount Rushmore, he still is one of the pinnacle athletes. He's still one of the greatest athletes ever. LeBron James was eating burgers and fries until he went to his first Olympic camp. He went to his first Olympic camp, hung with all these guys, and they're like, hey, bro, if you're going to make it in this league long term with the type of money you have, you need to get a chef. And LeBron started eating correct. Like the Taco Bell commercial came on last night and she started laughing. She goes, LeBron doesn't eat Taco Bell. I said, you bet his dog doesn't eat Taco Bell.
I know. Isn't that the truth?
Yes.
So what are your tips to a 17-year-old athlete? Let's just say it's a football player. Okay. They need to get a little bit bigger. They need to get a little bit stronger. Let's just say they need the gamut, right? But the biggest thing they're inquiring about juice for would be probably weight and strength, because those things speak on the football field until you're about 18 years old. What do you recommend to that kid?
We'll come back to the weightlifting. First and foremost is always food. I'll sit down. They come in and they're like, they want to do something. I'm like, tell me what you have for breakfast. Tell me what you have for lunch. Tell me. And what'd you have yesterday? Well, I said, if you can't remember what you ate yesterday, you have, like you said, you have no accountability. I don't use big words, but like that. But I'm like, you're messing up, because if you can't tell me I can tell you what I ate yesterday. I can tell you what I ate the day before. I can probably tell you what I ate all the way to last Thursday, because it's pretty much going to be the pretty much same thing, because give or take, stopping at a certain, I like to go to Sancho's, and other than stopping at Sancho's, getting a burrito, my food is pretty much bang, 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 bang. People always ask me the question, wow, bro, how'd you get so big? I'm like, I eat. I walk in with a bowl of food. There's there's food in the refrigerator. No matter where you see, there is food coming in my mouth, and I am nowhere near the eater that I was. It's just food. I'm surprised my dogs aren't like 500-pound Frenchies, because when I eat, they eat.
You're a walking food receptacle.
Yes, and because you and so. If you don't take in food, you're never going to grow the tissue. And most people swear, I remember when I was a kid, and that's why I always talk to people. When I was a kid, I asked one of the old timers, what's the secret to get big? And they said, eat. And they walked away. And I was like, I do eat, jerk. But I wasn't eating. I was eating Jack in the Box, Taco Bell, McDonald's. I was eating all kind of crud. I wasn't eating food.
Yeah, 100%.
So I was getting, I had my oldest stepdaughter, I had to tell her the other day, like, she's like, what are calories? I said, we don't count calories around here. We count macros. I said, macros are what we count, because it's about eating food. not calories. If you start counting calories, then things that are empty go in your mouth, and you eating empty things and you're thinking you're actually getting it. It's empty because it's a calorie.
Yeah.
I said, you want to care more about macro. So if you're a young man or a young lady out there and you're looking to gain a little more muscle, you want to figure out your macro calendar. The easiest way to do that is 1.5 times the body mass that you want to be. That's the easiest way to do it. I would tell you, if you're trying to be a massive human being, then you need to be up there on the 2 to 2.5 if you're trying to be massive. And it's just a real simple dial in.
Hold on. What does that equation result in?
The amount of protein you should have a day.
Protein. Got it. Yeah. So tell me this. We know that all the gains that they're looking for are built in recovery. But what does that mean about their training? What does their training have to look like? Because a lot of I don't have to worry about my athletes. They're getting it on every single day. So the biggest pillar or hurdle to jump over with them is always going to be what they do away from us, right? Not every kid is so blessed to train at a place like Grindhouse. And if I were to walk in a Body Exchange, you know exactly what we'd see.
Get a good blueprint.
Yeah.
I mean, if you can't afford coaching, and I understand not everybody out there can afford coaching. Like you said, it's a special place, and not everybody can afford the special place, but you can get yourself a blueprint. I went and bought the Arnold Schwarzenegger's book Encyclopedia because I wanted to be a bodybuilder. Now, if I want to be a speed athlete and I want to do more, and I want to be an athlete, there's books that you can get. There's online books. Let me get Michael Jordan's trainer. You know, if I'm a basketball player, why don't I get the book that Michael Jordan trainer wrote? And I'm just going to sit there and read that. And I'm going to get a pen and a paper, and I'm going to write it down so I have something to do, especially nowadays. But if you look that book up and you look up the things you ask, you can double back to YouTube.
Yeah.
And you can double back to YouTube, and you don't go look at the goofy kid do the workout. You go look at the professional do the workout. You want to, that way you have an understanding of the movement. And I'm always, the bro lifts are cool. Everybody wants to bro lift. Everybody wants to, you know, there's more weightlifters than athletes. There are more, let's just be honest. There's more people that go to the gym that swear they're doing something, and they're just weightlifters. At the end of the day, they're just a weightlifter. They go in there, they do their bro split. They go lay down in the bench press. They go with a bar. They go with a single bar. They go to single plate, 2 plate, 3 plates, whatever their max is. And that's pretty much the extent of their workout because they bench pressed heavy today. I did it. I benched that today, and then they feel good, and everything else is just fun. There's nothing set to where they're trying to challenge themselves. So if I'm an athlete, I'm trying to get faster, I really don't want to be inside of a gym.
100%.
I remember when I was, you know, I said there was no internet around. I just had to figure things out. I would listen to Walter Payton talk. I'd listen to these different athletes talk, and they would talk about their type of training. I remember running hills or running stadiums because it worked on explosiveness. Walter Payton said he wanted to pick up his 40 times, so he ran in the sand. I went and bought a weighted vest because I forget which athlete was like saying, if you're going to run sprints, run with a weighted vest, because you know that way it's the equivalent of running with your pads on. That way your body's used to carrying the pads, so there's no shocker and you don't lose any speed when you take these pads off, or you take this weighted vest off, put the pads on. Because how many times have you seen somebody that is breakneck fast, you put them in pads and they're like, oh, bro, where'd it go? Track athletes a lot of times don't translate well over to football just because the pads they can't get their form right. They're used to running with form. And that was just what I did because I wanted to get faster. So there's a plethora of information that's a lot better for these young men today, but you need to get a blueprint of training, not go work out with Bob.
Yeah, right.
You and the 5 broccoli heads in your pajama pants and Crocs going to stand around looking in the mirror is not making you a better athlete.
Yeah. Right. I always say, like, yeah, there are a million ways to find programs online, and you'll know the good from the poor ones by 3 things. Number 1, it should make you, there should be requirements like regular sprinting, jumping, and lifting. And if it claims to be a speed program, it's probably gonna be heavier weighted towards the sprinting and jumping than it is the weightlifting. Number two, it has to prioritize you recording or publishing rather your results. So you can always look back at what you did, and it should circle back around to those same things. And you'll know really quick. It's like a science experiment if you're making progress or not, whether or not it's to stay the course or switch it up.
If you don't track, I remember being a kid jumping up with a piece of paint on my finger.
Yeah.
So I knew if I'm jumping higher,
100%.
Keep going.
But there are a lot of, so I don't even know if they teach the scientific method in school anymore. Like they taught me, at least like until the end of my high school career, they were still teaching us to critically think. You know what I mean? And I don't know if that's a lost, I actually don't think that's being taught at all anymore, to be honest with you. I know the answer to that. But we got to be able to think, is this thing working or is it not? And we can look at, sprint times and jump heights and things like that to validate it. So those are the two big ones. I had a third one, completely left my brain. Steve, you got talking and jogged me, man. But long story short, there are a million different resources out there, and you can always reach out to one of us and we'll help you for free if that's what you need. But by and large, you can do it through diet. You can do it through progressive overload and just training hard, right? But then sleeping, staying hydrated, there is no need.
Oh my goodness, hydration. It's amazing at how many people do not drink a gallon of water a day.
How do you think this guy keeps his pigment the way he does year round? He's adorable. So listen, the biggest things are, we got to take care of those like low hanging fruit before we start turning to pharmaceuticals, if at all. Right.
Yes.
Tom, we all know that you can dodge drug tests and the best do it. And let's face it, at the highest levels.
You just made me laugh right now. I was thinking, there's the story, the UFC story about a certain championship fighter who hid under the ring for 16 hours because WADA saw his car outside and saw his gym, his locker was locked and his gym stuff was there, and they sat in the chair and he hid under there with pee jars.
Oh,
he was under the ring, hiding under the ring because it was pee test time.
That's amazing. But there are a million ways to get around it. The reality of it is that a 17-year-old kid with a lifetime high of testosterone coursing through their veins, that would be the last place we would look for performance enhancement. So
and they start them off young. It's crazy the amount of parents I know that put their kids on HGH.
Dude, I'm sure you see way worse than I do. Like, we deal with really, really good families. The story that I brought up, I wouldn't say most parents know me better than that. And I'll be honest, most of them don't consult with me on that because they know my stance. Yeah. But dude, you own a supplement shop. How often do you see, the broccoli heads or the 17, 18-year-olds coming in looking for an extra boost?
Yes, it's all the time. And I always regurgitate what I was told: stay natty and build up a foundation. These guys come in and they want to do it right away. You got to build a foundation. And like I said, especially like athletics, just once again, if you make it to the pros, you're not going to be able to take it in the pros.
100%.
I remember there was a young man that kind of like my last of my college football. Guy ran a 4.340 flat 4.340 bench 500. Broke OJ Simpson's single season record, but he did 2 bottles a week of testosterone, literally a week. He made it all the way to the league, and then he was out of the league. He literally, I don't want to throw the guy under the bus, but I told him he broke OJ's record. He broke Marshall Faulk's record at San Diego State. But then he had his first test, and when he made it to the league, you get used to being a powerhouse and running people over, and then you make it to the league and you're clean.
It's a bummer.
And you realize that, that you're not this person. You have to learn to cut. You're not used to getting cut. You get hit by somebody like Levon Kirkland. And it's
hard to get back from, man.
Yes.
Well, guys, hey, this has been another Tuesday night episode of Muscle Matters. Steve, tell our audience where they can find you.
Well, the family store is located at 7420 District Boulevard. Stop on by. We're right across the street from Nestle's.
And you already know to avoid this man if you or a loved one is looking for PEDs, okay? But if you're of age, go to this guy and he'll hook you up with some over-the-counter goodies. Now, guys, you can always find me at Blake Bernard Coaching on Instagram. And again, if you have any questions about this stuff or where to turn, I'll be honest with you, to do it in a more affordable, more sustainable, and healthier more pragmatic way.
Don't buy it out of the back of the truck nowadays.
Don't do that. The guy with the trench coat, they don't wear trench coats anymore, so it might be a little harder to identify.
Spandex and the spandex and the wide back top.
Yeah,
and the acne.
Yeah, 100%.
Then you have all these TRT clinics now. Go get your blood work done.
Right.
Like it isn't like the where you're back in the 80s and the 70s and the 60s hanging out in somebody's basement. Like, they have clinics now. If you think you have low testosterone, go see a doctor.
100%. Guys, it's been real. Every night at 6:30. This has been Muscle Matters.
See man every Tuesday night.
Oh, what did I say?
Every night.